Tech's tidal wave of layoffs means lots of top workers have to leave the US. It could hurt Silicon Valley and undermine America's ability to compete. The recent tech layoffs have put those on H-1B visas on a time crunch to find a new job. Big tech companies like Amazon, Meta, Google, Twitter, and Microsoft have long relied on the visas to bring in talent. The challenges have immigrants looking to other countries' tech industries for opportunities. People say this like corporations have any loyalty to the US. I'm pretty sure there is still a lot more demand than supply of engineers for now. Bitch please. I work in tech and all it means is just more work for the remaining people. Same shit, different day. Oh no, companies might have to invest in US tech workers. Terrible day. This is a cry about the lost profits in H-1B that big tech has enjoyed for decades. Scientists achieved nuclear fusion breakthrough with blast of 192 lasers. The first laser shot at 2.05 megajoules was performed in September. The main purpose of the National Ignition Facility is to conduct experiments to help the United States maintain its nuclear weapons. It will take quite a while before fusion becomes available on a widespread, practical scale, if ever. The result announced on Tuesday is the first fusion reaction in a laboratory setting that actually produced more energy than it took to start the reaction. That one Rick knew the answer: more lasers. I feel awful for that research group that only used 190 lasers. So close. This will be the great scientific achievement in 80 years. Nearly half a century of research and study went into this marvel of science. I was so happy when I saw this I cried. On December 5th the mini-sun burned on Earth, igniting humanity's hope for the future. At least this human's hope for the future. The power of the sun. When can we expect this technology to actually provide power to us? Also, I wonder if this will truly mean the end of nuclear non-fusion, coal, solar, and wind power. Ukrainian army issues instructional video telling Russians how to surrender to a drone. Ukraine has released an instruction video for Russian soldiers on surrendering to a drone. It's part of the "I Want to Live" hotline, which entices Russians to stop fighting in Ukraine. The video shows 3 men in uniform and white armbands in a trench. From there, they are led to Ukrainian captivity by a small quadcopter. We've come a long way from dropping propaganda leaflets. The video also warns that the drone's battery may run low, in which case it will head back to base and the soldiers should stay put and await a fresh one. The balls on this plan, geez. I love it. Don't go home, don't run away, don't wait for your reinforcements to arrive. Please remain calm while our reinforcements arrive so that you can safely continue surrendering to our tiny robot. Damn. I Want to Live is a pretty blood-chilling name for a surrender campaign. I hope it works. Just scan the QR code located on the drone with your phone. That will take you to a website where you can complete the surrender application. Once submitted, your application will be processed in the order it was received. You can expedite the process by turning yourself and all weapons over at one of the checkpoints listed on page 3 of the application. Thank you, and have a safe war. During World War II, when the German invasion of Britain seemed like it would really be a thing, the BBC started doing broadcasts to help the Germans learn English phrases. The sentences they used were things like, "Please help me. I am on fire." U.S. lawmakers unveil bipartisan bid to ban China's TikTok. Republican Senator Marco Rubio on Tuesday announced bipartisan legislation to ban China's popular social media app TikTok. The legislation would block all transactions from any social media company in or under the influence of China and Russia. The bill comes as scrutiny of TikTok has grown in Washington in recent weeks, after a failed bid by the Trump administration to ban the app. R.I.P. Vine. Sweet Prince. So what you're saying is we should develop a TikTok clone. Instead of banning apps, they should be working on privacy laws. Every device we use should be set to private by default. No tracking, no information harvesting. The privacy app I use on my phone has blocked 442,154 tracking attempts in the last 7 days across 21 apps. It's ridiculous. Edit, people asking for the app. It's DuckDuckGo for Android. YouTube Shorts agrees with this legislation. Please sir, I just want healthcare. China bans AI-generated media without watermarks. China's Cyberspace Administration has issued new rules on deep synthesis technology. The new rules will take effect on January 10, 2023. Companies that provide deep synthesis tech must keep their records legally compliant. People using the technology must register for accounts with their real names so their generation activity can be traceable. This is good. It's too easy to make and getting more and more sophisticated. Cause for concern. And it's completely unenforceable. Rather, this is just a bid for control of media by the censorship giant of the world. How long until the Chinese government is spreading fake media generated by AI without watermarking to trick their populace into believing it's real? Not a bad idea actually. Doubt it will be enforced in most circumstances, but will help prevent the spread of fake images used for nefarious purposes if it's a crime to do so. That's gonna make the malicious AI generations all the easier to believe now that you'll be expecting a watermark. Not sure how this can be enforced, but it's a good call. AI-generated media is already becoming an issue and deepfakes are already scarily believable. It's kinda cringe how China is ahead of the rest of the world when it comes to AI. Just let Allen Iverson make his art. That moment when China is ahead of the curve. This makes sense. China bans AI-generated domestic media without watermarks. FTFY. Banned unwatermarked Chinese AI generation coming soon to a medium near you. Do your next TikTok. Probably for the best. Ex-CNN producer pleads guilty to child sex charge and deal. John Griffin met a woman on a website and persuaded the woman to bring her 9-year-old daughter to his Vermont ski home for illegal sexual activity. Griffin paid the woman and girl to fly from Nevada to Boston, picked them up and drove them to his Vermont home where the girl said Griffin sexually assaulted her. Griffin worked for CNN for about 8 years but was fired after he was arrested. The adoptive mother was also charged, in case people are curious. And she did this for $3,000 from what I've read. Heather Carricker, 48, of Henderson, was arrested on August 21, 2020, on 2 counts of child abuse, 2 counts of sexual assault against a child under 14 and 1 count of lewdness with a minor under 14. Persuaded the woman to bring her 9-year-old daughter to his Vermont ski home for illegal sexual activity. Sounds like the mom should be prosecuted as well. Founding Fox News producer and now former CNN producer solicits child sex from shitty mother who should also be behind bars. Edit, fixed a word, lol. Looking at voter registration data, it appears he's a registered Republican, not liberal. No mention of the mother who went along with this. Whatever his final sentence, hers should be double. What kind of pos would Noah not gonna agree to this sick arrangement? Was this the guy who also used to work at Fox News? Pointing out only CNN and not Fox isn't a new thing in this story. Here's how a trashy news site put it a year ago. So when is the mom going to jail? New Zealand imposes lifetime ban on youth buying cigarettes. Tobacco can't ever be sold to anybody born on or after January 1, 2009. Minimum age for buying cigarettes will keep going up and up. Health authorities hope to make New Zealand smoke-free by 2025. Law also reduces number of retailers allowed to sell tobacco from 6,000 to 600. I used to smoke, and I gave up when I was about to queue at a tobacconist's and saw how tired and unhealthy everyone waiting in line looked. I miss it at times, but I don't regret stopping. The photo doesn't match the headline. Devil's advocate, won't this ultimately just create a black market for tobacco just like every other drug we've tried to completely ban, for example alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, LSD, etc. So they're banning all tobacco-related products such as cigarettes and loose tobacco? So this is different than banning alcohol since the substance itself, nicotine, isn't receiving a ban but the tobacco leaves themselves? NZ bro wearing a US Army hat. Commander Cody really fell off after Order 66. Just going by the picture here, but New Zealand youth look 50 AF. Rupert Murdoch to be deposed in $1.6 billion Dominion defamation case. Dominion Voting Systems is seeking $1.6 billion in damages from Fox News Network. Dominion alleges Fox spread false claims that its machines were used to rig the 2020 election against Republican Donald Trump and in favor of his Democratic rival Joe Biden. Murdoch, 91, is the most high-profile figure to face questioning in the case. Fox hosts and co-hosts Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Jeanine Pirro and Brett Baer have also been questioned in recent months, court records show, as well as former host Lou Dobbs. Fox News Chief Executive Suzanne Scott and President Jay Wallace have also sat for depositions. I so hope it goes to trial. Yet another case where you and I will hear and learn very little we didn't already know or suspect, and the people who need to hear it the most will learn nothing. For example, when they argued in court and the judge agreed that no one was actually dumb enough to think Fox News was really news nor gullible enough to take them at their word. I don't recall, 45 times. Any bets on the, I don't recall, over under? The blood is in the water. Good time for everyone who has been defamed by Fox News to start suing. I wish someone would drive a truck up Murdoch's ass. He's done way more than his fair share to destroy dialogue and democracy in the US. Supreme Court won't block California flavored tobacco ban. The Supreme Court on Monday refused a request from tobacco companies to stop California from enforcing a ban on flavored tobacco products. The ban was overwhelmingly approved by voters in November. J. Reynolds and other tobacco companies sought the High Court's intervention to keep the ban from taking effect by December 21. Anyone else wondering what California flavor tastes like when they first read this? My 81-year-old mother-in-law is going to go completely postal when she finds out she can't get her menthol cigarettes in public. I rather smell cotton candy peach than cigarette smoke. I don't care what people suck into their lungs. I miss vaping like 5 years ago when I could do a bunch of my own mixing. Now it's all these knockoff pre-filled flums, elf bars, etc. with half-dead batteries. And there seems to be zero regulation. We're somehow going backwards on tobacco and nicotine laws and regulations. So if they won't even regulate what is currently on the market, I cannot see them enforcing this effectively. Tobacco companies, the people should decide. Voters make flavored tobacco illegal. Tobacco companies, not like that. Meanwhile, I can go into the liquor store and buy 10 different flavors of vodka. Imagine going full bore on weed and then saying tobacco flavoring is bad. Like bruh, putting anything in your lungs besides regular fucking air is bad. But I really don't want tobacco to taste like California. Biden to sign Respect for Marriage Act, reflecting his and the country's evolution. Biden signs Respect for Marriage Act, reflecting his and the country's evolution. In 2004, just 42% of Americans said they were in support of same-sex marriage. Today, it's 68%, according to an NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll to be released Thursday. Biden has a grandchild who identifies as LGBTQ. The Freedom Caucus, the Federalist Society and SCOTUS crying in their breakfast martinis. President Biden will sign into law Tuesday a bipartisan bill that will codify same-sex and interracial marriages with a large celebration on the South Lawn of the White House. Today, Congress took a critical step to ensure that Americans have the right to marry the person they love, Biden said in a statement Thursday after the House passed the Respect for Marriage Act, which would recognize marriages federally and across state lines. The Senate passed it earlier. Great. I bet GOP is mad. But now marriage is ruined. Oh, wait, my marriage is still just fine. Never mind. Somewhere in a corner Vicky Hartzler is sobbing. GOP congressman wanted Trump to invoke martial law to stay in office, leaked texts. Former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows was forced to hand over 2,319 text messages to the House Select Committee investigating the January 6 attack on the Capitol. The trove of text messages were obtained by Talking Points memo, which reported on the extent to which Meadows was communicating with members of Congress about overturning the 2020 election. This was a trial run. They will be back. That is literally a coup. He was calling for the end of democracy for a shitstain like Trump. Gee, no wonder they all wanted pardons. When a far-right terrorist group in Germany tried a coup, 25 of the terrorists was arrested right away. Germany is showing America what they should have done. It's not too late. If not, these American terrorists are going to be in control of the House of Representatives. The GOP is run by so many illiterate people. Meadows, Jim Jordan, Trump, MTG. Like seriously, martial law. At least if you are going to try and overthrow the government, spell things correctly for Christ's sake. Marjorie Taylor Greene swears she was only joking when she said she would have won January 6. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the de facto leader of the House GOP, said she and Steve Bannon would have organized the January 6 attack on the Capitol. The White House has called her comments dangerous, abhorrent, and a slap in the face to the Capitol Police, the D.C. Metropolitan Police, the National Guard, and the families who lost loved ones. This is a joke, like a boyfriend bringing up the idea of a threesome is a joke, and yet she asked for a pardon after 1/6. She lies. They all appear to lie. They can't recall, or it was a joke, when caught. The problem with politics today is that they can say, just kidding, and then nothing happens. People get death threats, attacked, some might even lose their life, and people like this horrible woman can stoke that violence and not face any repercussions. This country truly is becoming a banana republic. The hallmark of an abusive person. Says outlandish horrendous things, and when called out on it they become the victim. It was only a joke, you're too sensitive, followed by another insult. She is utter trash. Iran soccer player sentenced to death by hanging. Former Iranian soccer player Amir Nasser Azadani sentenced to death by his country's regime for campaigning for women's rights. Amir Nasser Azadani, 26, has been sentenced to be hanged. The footballer is to suffer the same fate as wrestler Majid Reza Rahnavard, who was publicly executed for participating in the protests. The Iranian regime is desperate to punish those who have campaigned for women's rights and freedom in the nation. Brutal. We didn't learn from the protests, and here's a famous person we are going to murder because of it. That's going to spark a whole nother fight. What a country. Hanging someone for their opinions on equality. FIFA, we want to unite the world through sport. We are open to the idea of Iran hosting the World Cup. Heroic. What an evil regime. It's fucking unimaginable. Standing up for half of a country population and being sentenced to death for that. What a fucking nightmare shithole of a government is that? Annihilate this fucking regime. So, next World Cup is in Iran? Iran's theological rulers are no different than any despot afraid of losing power. When their time come and they meet their Allah, they may have to do some explaining for their way of handling secular world. Iran, 0 days without incident. Iran needs a revolution in leadership. It is not possible for a country to evolve under the authority of such absurd ideological conditions. Lithuania bans promotion of any totalitarian or authoritarian regimes and ideologies. 103 members of the Seimas voted in favor of the so-called desovietization law. It has yet to be signed by the president. The law is meant to provide a legal basis to remove Soviet-era monuments, memorials, street names, and other objects from public spaces. This one really hurt Vatniks. Look at them squirming in the comments. The law sounds good on the surface, but I feel the devil in the details may lead to future unintended consequences. Namely totalitarianism. Lots of non-Lithuanians commenting on how this will not go as planned for a country that has built itself up from ground zero to be a shining example of how to conquer its past and move forward as a progress nation. Love all the mad Vatniks in comments. That sounds vague enough to be used to censor whatever you want. It scares me that tons of Americans want this. I mean, I get it, free speech. But we also have the paradox of tolerance. If we tolerate intolerance, eventually those messages will overwhelm our society. See, most Western superpowers. So the intention is solid, but I fear the execution may be lacking. Of course there's a lot of Americans crying that it's atrocious. Real clowns. How is this any different than dictatorships removing extremists? I would never approve of such law. It's totalitarian in itself. Lithuania is gigantic. We're not authoritarians, we're National Socialists.